Hello, I'm Thomas K. Carpenter, and this is the Games edition of Ask Me Anything. My first question is, what's the most challenging part of designing a game based on your books? And how did you approach translating the world of the Hundred Halls into game mechanics? Well, I'd say the first thing is that it actually makes it a lot easier. When you have a wealth of options to play with, it can sometimes be intimidating, but when you're starting with a known character, a realm, or a scenario, it's easier to imagine how should I translate those mechanics into the game. For example, Morgan immediately, I knew that it had to be with the stones, the colored stones that help her with her magic. And vice versa. Obviously, Callie and Pax, there's going to be two players rather than one, and so on. So I actually think it makes it a lot easier, and that's kind of a general truth about creativity is limitations are actually help you be more creative rather than limiting you as sometimes you might first think. What are the biggest influences from turn-based strategy games or Magic the Gathering that have made their way into your game design or world building? I think Magic, especially the Commander format, has had a much larger influence on the game design for Champions. One of the things I love about Commander, and if you're not familiar, typically you have 4 players playing a deck of cards that they have put together based on a legendary creature or legendary figure from the Magic Gathering universe, and you battle against each other and to see who comes out on top. But a lot of Commander is about having fun. I don't have to win, and a lot of people don't have to win to enjoy the game. A lot of times people just want to do the cool thing with their deck. Is it milling people? Is it creating a lot of tokens, gaining a lot of life, things like that? And I took the same approach to the players from Champions, where I wanted there to be cool things you could do, and when you get to pull off those things, it feels very good. Now in this case, you're cooperative rather than competitive. So you're working together, which I think makes it even better, especially when you can pull off those really interesting, cool things across different players. Using those synergies to defeat the scenario in a way that is very satisfying. I think that's the biggest thing, I was going for. I didn't want to feel like the players were being limited. Now I realize that some of the scenarios can be challenging off the bat, and if you feel behind those first few turns, but typically by the end of the game, if you're going to win, you're kind of snowballing towards that win. Can you share a memorable moment from the process of developing Champions of the Hundred Halls, and what aspect of the game are you most proud of? I'd say a couple of memorable moments. One was early on in the development when I got some of the people I play Commander with and draft Magic with, got them together to play. And after we did the testing, their first question was, when can we play again? And that told me a lot, that it wasn't, they were just, obviously they came the first time because they were friends and they were trying to support me. But typically it might be like, oh, okay, well, we helped him with this game and now we can move on. We did that thing. But the fact that they were enjoying it and kept coming back for repeated testing, we did a lot of testing, really told me that I had something that was, enjoyable. I design games that I am going to like, and it was nice to know that they were going to like it too. I'd say one of the others was when we defeated the Circle of Scale, the level 5 deck, because I had to make sure that it was possible to win. I knew theoretically I thought it might be, but actually accomplishing that and figuring out how to do that as a team was really fun. Even though it's less of the design and more of the play testing side of it, but it told me that, okay, this seems really difficult, but there is a way to do it, which I thought was neat, being able to balance that difficulty plus the fun. What aspect of the game I'm most proud of? A couple of things there too. One is how easy it is to get into the game. I don't like big setups in games. I get bored if I have to spend an hour setting up a game to play. And sometimes maybe the game's only 2 hours, so you spent a third of the time setting up. I like having it, you can quickly get into the game. I love the combos. I mean, even during the play testing, people were coming up with things that I hadn't thought of. I just set these things out, and they're smart Magic players, and they were able to kind of find these connections and things to do that I thought were pretty cool. Or even playing a player in the way that I wasn't expecting someone to play. And that told me that I had done a good job of creating the design to be, open for what people could do with it rather than what I was going to do. It's kind of like in writing, making sure that your character is doing the things it needs to do rather than things I wanted. Next question. What hall would you prefer to be in compared to what you might play in Champions, and why? I think I would be in Arcanium most likely, because of its relation to books and truth and knowledge, and I find the magic of Arcanium to be more creative, where Assassins is more straightforward. You're a martial artist, but with magic in a way, where Arcanium has a lot more creativity within its use. But when I'm playing a game, I tend towards more complex characters. I like to play the ones that aren't expectedly, don't look powerful on the surface. I hope people try playing Alex, even though it may look rather strange, managing the quests and other things like that, or Pi. In this case, she was Arcanium, but also a little bit different, with the soul fragments, where you have to really devise an interesting line of attack to what's going on. I think those are much more interesting for me, and it's kind of the same thing when I play Magic. I like to play weird decks that aren't necessarily straightforwardly powerful, but can pull off interesting and fun things and potentially win the game. And if not, I still had a good time doing it. And last question. Can you give us a sneak peek of any upcoming games or other gaming related news you're particularly excited about in the 100 Halls universe? Well, as you can see from the screen behind me, we do have the expansion in the works for Champions of the 100 Halls. There will be 3 player decks, one realm, and 2 scenarios. We went heavier, 2 player decks, 3 scenarios. We went, originally it was just going to be 1 player, but decided that more players is better. I think those are where, people like to have the challenge. It's more about, kind of like Commander, it's playing a different deck, not the people you play against. And I made the 2 characters to fill some holes that maybe people might find if they're trying to take on the more challenging things, or one of them in particular, Lenny Fane. He's from Protectors. He is a very good solo deck, solo game player that I think you'll enjoy. And originally I had the idea that the scenarios would be a bit on the harder side, but from feedback from a lot of the people that bought the game is they're looking maybe for a little bit easier challenge. So it's going to be on the easier side of the scale rather than the harder. Circle of Scale is out there. I'd still love to hear if somebody, beat that, and how, and, what players did you use, and what were the kind of tactics on how you accomplished that. That's for Champions. 2 other things I'm working on is I have another board game tentatively calling Trials of Magic. It is an actual board game, not card game. There are cards associated with it. It is kind of in line with what I originally wanted to do back in 2017 when I first started trying to design the game. And it wasn't until the summer I had an idea that helped me figure out what was the struggle point of why it wasn't working. The previous version of the game was too fiddly. It took too much setup. It was too kind of difficult, a lot of rules. And some people enjoy that, but I wanted a more wider, accessible game, a game that people could play if they're not necessarily an experienced gamer. Sometime later on, we'll reveal more. This is probably a game that I won't be releasing, or at least the Kickstarter, until 2026. Maybe later, depending. I've done a lot of work on it. I think it's in a really good state, but I really need to start getting to the play testing with other people stage. And the third item working on is a 100 Halls roleplay game. That is about a year in development. We are currently running through the campaign with some players, my normal D&D group. I'm working on this with my friend Joey Ravinsky. He's been our DM. He is a top-notch DM, and he brings a lot of experience. And I think what we've been creating so far is really cool, and we're getting good feedback. But that's gonna be a longer development cycle. That may be 3 or 4 years, or really whenever it's ready is when we'll launch it. We're not really putting a specific date on it, because that's a much larger thing. When you're talking a role play game, there's so many interactions and things that you have to deal with and think about. But that will be launched on Kickstarter, unless something changes in the next 3 or 4 years, and it will be 2 different books. One will be the campaign player, here's how the rules of this world work, which will have some kind of relation to a lot of the other role play systems out there. And then another book will be the adventure book for the DM. Anyway, we're working hard on that, and I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait to release more details. And at some point we'll be releasing some free content on that one, and I'll make sure to let you know. That's it for my Ask Me Anything Games Edition. I'm sure we'll do another couple of these in the future, so I'll see you then.